Hey, friends, I think YouTube is trying to grab the stream here. So welcome on board. Yeah, on board, we're going to be talking about shipping again. So let's see, I think we are officially going. I'm Peggy Hall from the Healthy American, and I've been doing nonstop coverage, basically, of this Baltimore Bridge incident. Notice they're not calling it an accident. They're calling it an event, a tragedy, a collapse, a collision, all sorts of things, but they're not calling it an accident. And I think that is very telling. We're going to continue to dig into this. And I do want to let you know that let me share my screen because I want to make sure that you can find all of my videos. And then we're going to talk about where exactly is the crew of the DALI and why. So let's take a look here. This is my YouTube channel. And be sure that you click on the tab that says videos. If you just go to the Healthy American Peggy Hall and you click on home, who knows what YouTube will serve up. Well, here they're serving up the live stream. That's pretty cool. But this is from 5 months ago, 1 month ago, 4 months ago. People say, I can't find your videos, Peggy. Well, click on videos, and those will be all of the premier live streams. That means new videos that I record and then I upload for you as a premiere where everyone can chat and interact as it's airing. And then I have actual live streams like this one. And I do most of my videos live. So make sure that you click on the live tab. And I am here starting at 4 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday. Don't wait for a notification. Just hop on, enjoy our community, and I really appreciate you being on board. I also have a link called Playlists, and you'll see that I've got my Baltimore Bridge playlist. And I've got, at this count, more than half a dozen, and I will continue my coverage. So I just wanted to let you know that I've already answered a lot of the questions that you might be posing here in the chat or in the comments. And I want to make sure that you can go back and watch all of those videos that you're interested in. The question that I have is, where is the crew of the DALI? And also, what are their names? Most importantly, what is the name of the master of the ship who was piloting the ship in? And what were the names of the harbor pilots? These are experts. I did an entire video about harbor pilots and how they are required by law to help these vessels navigate in and out of the ports. Now, they may not always be the one that actually is doing the steering, but they are on board by law and they are advising, or perhaps in some cases, actually steering the ship. Many of you have told me that you've been on cruise ships. I never have, but you said that you saw these harbor pilots come on board through a rope ladder that is thrown over the side of these giant ships, and they climb up and they come on board and then they climb back down and they get in their boat and they power away. So it's a very normal part of this port activity. It's something new for me. And if you are an expert in this area and you would like to share more information with me, please email support@thehealthyamerican.org. And that way I can help to broadcast that information as well. I think it's interesting to share the information from a layperson's point of view, which is me. And most of my audience, they don't understand and have had experience with these vessels and these ports. So it's interesting that we're on this journey together as we are digging in, digging deeper, and not taking things at face value. There are a lot of videos that are floating around YouTube, and it's likely that some of them are doctored. And that's why I share them with a caveat to dig deeper, use your critical thinking skills. And I shared a video yesterday about some disappearing birds, and I didn't share it with the intention to show you that the birds were disappearing. It was because a Healthy American had sent it to me and had referenced it in her email. So I just wanted to share it with you. But even that, I can't vouch that it is accurate. Everything that we're shown could be AI. We used to call it CGI, computer generated images. I'm going to stick with CGI because I don't think artificial, let me put it this way, artificial intelligence is an oxymoron. Computers can't be intelligent. Only human beings can be intelligent. That means that they can acquire knowledge through learning, and machines don't learn. They're programmed by a human being, okay? I rest my case. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Where is the crew, and why are they being kept away? And why aren't we hearing the name? Why aren't we reading about the names? I called the company that manages the ship, the DALI. I misspoke and I said that they owned the ship. And what I meant to say is they were the managing company. So they were the ones that took on the crew, hired the crew, did all the logistics. The ship itself is owned by another group called Ocean Party Limited. I believe that's it. I have it in my Substack, and you can get all of that with links over at peggyhall.substack.com. And then Maersk, Maersk, is a Danish company. And the Danish company is the one that actually had the container ships on and contracted with the Synergy Group in order to bring these container ships out of the port of Baltimore. Some people didn't realize that the ship was actually departing Baltimore. Now, I would like to ask my seafaring individuals here, is that normal that these ships are departing like at 1 o'clock in the morning? Maybe it is. I didn't know that those ports work 24/7. Apparently they do. But what I want to talk about now is the crew. I called those companies. I called the Maryland Harbor Pilots Association. They are the ones that provide the harbor pilots to get on these vessels. And I tried to contact them. There's no phone number. There's no email. There's only a snail mail address. And because I'm working quickly, gathering the information to bring you videos daily, I don't have any information from that Maryland Harbor Pilots Association yet, and apparently no one else does, because none of the names have been released of the harbor pilots who actually were on board during that incident. I think that's the most important piece of information we need. Why are they hiding that from us? When there is a so-called mass bang bang event, we immediately see the person's face of the perpetrator before they even had a trial, before they were ever even accused of anything. And then we also know their mental health history. Right? They tell us how long they were in mental health hospitals. They tell us exactly how much money they had to buy their bang bangs, where they got them, how much ammunition they had. Oh, and by the way, they found their manifesto that was written out. Yeah, because y'all always have to have a manifesto. So all of that information is released on an accused criminal, but we don't get this on a newsworthy item. It doesn't make sense to me. And I know it doesn't make sense to you. I could not get the name of the crew members when I called Synergy. They said they're not going to be releasing those names. I said, should I call the NTSB, right? National Transportation Safety Board? And they said, no, because they have to get the names from us and we're not releasing them. Well, are they going to wait for a court subpoena? Is that even legal? I have so many questions, but I do have some answers. And so here is what I want to talk to you about is an article. It's actually an interview with, this is very interesting again, an interview with Reverend Joshua Messick. He's an executive director of the Baltimore International I don't know if it's Seafarer or Seafarers Center, a nonprofit that provides support to seafarers in Baltimore. So this was an interview with, let me see here. This is NPR. Now I know that it is very left-leaning, and I think it's very interesting to hear perspectives from the whole range of views. So let's hear what the Reverend Joshua Messick says about his communications with this DALI crew. Now, how he got to be in contact with them and none of the media, I don't know. I'm going to bring another video for you tomorrow with all the questions that I have not been answered, and hopefully you can help me find those answers. So the interview says, the host, A. Martinez, says it's been nearly a week since a cargo ship crashed into Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. Now, I want you to listen for the word accident. As I said, I cannot find any media that uses the word accident. I find that very interesting. It opens the door that there could be espionage, there could be sabotage, there could be false flags, there could be CGI, who knows what else. It says, while cleanup efforts have since started on the river, crew members of the cargo ship DALI, along with several other ships, remain stuck in the harbor. How are they doing? To answer that question, we're joined by Reverend Joshua Messick, the executive director of the Baltimore International Seafarer Center. All right. The question, what have you heard from the crew members on the DALI as well as the other ships? And he says, well, I have heard precious little. That means not very much from the crew of the DALI. I am in contact with them over WhatsApp. That seems a little remote to me, but their answers have generally been brief. All right, Joshua, the question I have for you, which doesn't appear this interviewer is asking, how did you get in contact with them? Like, can I get in contact with them on WhatsApp? I can just go on WhatsApp and dial in the DALI crew. How exactly did you make that connection? Inquiring minds want to know. He says, their answers have been generally brief. I imagine they're trying to be very careful about how much information they provide, what they say, and to whom. Why? Why are they being careful? If it was an accident, you say, oh my gosh, it was an accident. What is there to cover up? This makes me even more suspicious. He says, all in all, the crew is healthy. They're being provided with everything they need. Who's providing them everything they need? I would like to know. Is there another vessel going out there with food and water? But all in all, the crew is healthy. As I said that, they're assisting in the efforts with the Coast Guard and Customs Border Protection, the Army Corps of Engineers, and everyone that's out there working right now. Okay, how are they assisting? What are they doing? You mean answering questions? Are they cleaning things up? The interviewer says, are they doing anything on the ship? Are they working at all? Reverend Joshua says, yes, they are still a functioning vessel, despite the damage they received. So the crew are keeping watch and assisting actively with the efforts of recovery. Isn't that weird that he said the damage that the ship received? Didn't the ship cause the damage? See, I read between the lines on all of this. I analyze the words, the tone, the questions. All right, let's go on. Those that are just hopping on, this is an interview from NPR, which is a liberal, a left-leaning media. And I thought that was interesting to bring that perspective. And they're interviewing this Reverend Martinez, who apparently is in contact on WhatsApp with the crew members of the DALI. And he says, the interviewer says, that's got to be so strange to be on this ship with a bridge that fell on it, with everything that happened, and you're still trying to go about your daily workday. Reverend Joshua says, absolutely. Until the vessel is considered exceedingly unsafe for them to be there, they will remain on and continue to do the work that they are there and that they have signed on to do. The interviewer, wow, what kind of support and resources do people on the ships need? Reverend Joshua, it depends on the ship. Each shipping agency and owner is different. Each crew is provided for in slightly different ways. So they all have adequate food. And my job, says Reverend Joshua, is to make sure that that continues, that none of their rights as human beings or as seafarers are violated, and that they continue to get all of the support that they need. Right now, my primary focus is to supply emotional support, trauma care, and transportation ashore for those seafarers who are able to leave. Okay, I want to bring you more information about why they are not leaving that ship. Okay. I mean, you have to have a passport, you have to have shore leave, just can't get off that ship. And these are all, to my understanding, they are all Indian, except for one is from Singapore. Okay. And let me interrupt myself. For those of you that are saying, oh, the captain is Ukrainian. Okay. That's been debunked pretty much since day one. That information, which actually is called a rumor, was floating around social media. And somebody found information on LinkedIn for a Ukrainian sea captain that had either applied for a job on that ship or with that company. But that was like in 2016. So there is no evidence to confirm that. So that's why I'm not even talking about it. Let me give you another debunked myth, which is, or something that was put forth, is that this ship was owned by and the late Angela Chow, who is Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law. I've talked about this before. And I do want to dig into her family story because it's very strange. And while her family does own Foremost, a different shipping company that she was the CEO of before she perished strangely in a Tesla accident, her sister is Elaine Chow, and she was the director, she was the Secretary of Transportation under Trump and possibly previously as well. And I find that so strange because her father, who was born in China and immigrated to this country, he had since moved to Taiwan, but then came to this country. He met his wife in Taiwan. Anyway, her father was like one of the youngest captains, sea captains in the United States, I think at the age of 29 for, a large fleet. This is my understanding. I find it very strange that she was the Secretary of Transportation and there were some allegations of corruption. But anyway, that's not the company. So that's another myth that's being debunked. I know it's really exciting, like to share when you find something, but you have to dig deeper into these things and either confirm or get more evidence. So that's where I am with that. That's why I want to find out about this crew. Okay, so the interview goes on. Interviewer says, I wanted to ask you about transportation ashore, because specifically how the crew members on the DALI, considering what happened and how things turned out, I mean, how have they been handling or trying to deal with this tragedy? Well, because the Reverend also deals with their emotional support. I mean, are you concerned with their mental well-being? Okay, see, again, he's calling it a tragedy. You'll never hear them use the word accident. I think something went out from on high to tell all the media to not use the word accident. Why aren't they using the word accident? I just find that very strange. Apparently, it hasn't been proven to be an accident, which means it would be done intentionally or via sabotage. But even through negligence, it is still an accident. I've yet to see that word. Maybe it will pop up. Okay, Reverend Joshua says, I am very much concerned about their mental well-being. They did not have Wi-Fi on board until Saturday morning. I was able to get them 2 Wi-Fi hotspots. Okay, Reverend, how were you able to do that? He said, I had mixed emotions about that because on the one hand, they really need to be able to connect to family and friends at home. But on the other, I'm anxious about the conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories. Oh, you mean those of us truth tellers that see it before everybody else does? And all the things that are being said about them unfairly out there. What's being said about them unfairly out there? The Reverend says, I'm glad that they're able to have Wi-Fi now. I'm just anxious about what their emotional reaction will be. All right. The interviewer says, Reverend, we just have a few seconds left. Any idea when they'll be able to get off the ship and what happens to those crew members after that? He said, no. A lot of that depends on when they're able to get the ship free from the bridge and back to its berth. Then the crew's future is relatively uncertain. Hopefully, they'll be able to remain aboard and I'll be able to care for them as long as possible. They may be repatriated or otherwise sent back to their country. And the interviewer says, Reverend Joshua Messick, Executive Director of the Baltimore International Seafarers Center, Reverend, thanks. And the Reverend says, thank you, sir. So I find that very interesting. So I wanted to read to you now coverage from the BBC, all right, just to give you another perspective about this crew. And it says almost 24 sailors remain stranded on board. This is an article from yesterday, so it's very recent. Nearly 24 sailors remain stranded on board the vessel involved in the accident. The BBC used the word accident. That's the first time I've seen it. All right, none of the American media has used it. All right, most of the crew of the DALI, a container ship, are from India. The other one is from Singapore. 6 people were killed in the collapse. Now, when I bring you my video tomorrow about all the weird things that aren't adding up, there's more to add to the list. We were told that there were 8 people, and then we were told there were 6, but we still only got names of 4. Why didn't we get the names of the other 2 that were killed? Why all the, discrepancy, and why the confusion? And this is a national story. I would like to have the information. Okay, the BBC says, here's what we know about the men on board the DALI and their current situation. Remember, I called the managing company of this ship, and they said, we are not releasing the information, the names of the crew. He did tell me that there were 22. All right, the BBC says 21 crew members were on board. Maybe that means the crew members plus the pilot or the master, who's the captain of the ship. At the time of the accident, does the BBC know something we don't? Which happened just minutes into the ship's 27-day journey to Sri Lanka. Yes, 7 + 2 is 9. And you know that sometimes they like to leave their calling card. And I don't know exactly why 9 is such a number that pops up all the time, like 9, 11. 11 is another number we see all the time. So like 5 + 6 or 56. And then we see a lot of 23, like 2 times 3, also 6. We see 6 a lot, like 666, the mark of the beast. Anyhow, I digress. I know not everybody follows the numbers, but it just is something like if I'm an investigator of a crime, I am going to pick up all of the clues. And later, I may discard some, but I'm not going to discard them off the bat. So I'm going to tuck away that little number of 27 in my clues as I investigate. India has confirmed that 20 of the crew members 20 of them are Indian citizens. And government statistics show that 315,000 Indians, and that adds up to 9, are employed in the global maritime industry. about 20% of the total of the maritime industry, Indians are only second to Filipinos in that sector. I learned something new. I did not know that Indians were the crew members on so many of these ships and that Filipinos were as well. One crew member is from Sri Lanka, according to the US Coast Guard. Again, no names, no ages, nothing. An Indian official last week said the crew are all in good health, including one member with a minor injury which required stitches. Little else is publicly known about the crew, their background, or their experience. All right. Authorities have said, for now, this is the BBC, that there is no plan to disembark the DALI's crew who are still working to maintain the ship. It's unlikely they will leave the vessel until it is moved, because that's a complicated and potentially long process. Now, here's what I thought was really interesting. It said that on Friday, and I'm broadcasting here, today's Tuesday, the Coast Guard Admiral Shannon Gilrath said that moving the DALI is a secondary priority to reopening the port of Baltimore and the shipping channel. Even, this is what I find interesting, even in normal circumstances, disembarking crews of foreign nationals from ships in U.S. ports requires significant paperwork. Okay, let's just, okay, I'm going to read another paragraph and then we're going to dissect this a little. We're going to contrast it with what's going on at the border in the United States, where it's a free-for-all. I guess you shouldn't be on a ship. They should just march right in, right? Here we go. In addition to visas, the mariners, right, the crew members, need to have valid shore passes that allow them to get off the ship. They also need escorts to take them from the ship to the terminal gate, although that function can be performed by the various nonprofits that work with the mariners in that area, such as the one I just read you about, that Reverend Joshua has the nonprofit that helps. It is unclear, the BBC writes, whether the DALI's crew has the required paperwork to disembark. The Unified Command overseeing the response to the Baltimore accident, says the BBC, told the BBC on Monday it's unclear how long the investigation will last, and until the process is complete, the crew will remain on board. Now, there's a little bit more to this story, but is that strange to you? So the crew members are basically captive on that ship. Could it be, let's see, they don't want the media to have access to them to ask questions? Oh, no, that would never be it. That would never even cross my mind, now would it? They wouldn't certainly want to have their pictures taken by anybody that has, I don't know, this little device called a cell phone. But apparently nobody had their cell phones out at the time of the bridge collapse because we don't have any other footage. But I can tell y'all what some of my neighbors had for lunch because they have their phone out and they're posting that on Instagram. But I saw nothing on Instagram, any footage of this ship. So I would never say that they want to keep all of those crew members. How do I put it? Captive until everything blows over and they get their story straight about the incident. I mean, the collapse, I mean, the collision, I mean, the tragedy. No, that could never be the reason why. Because after all, this country is so secure and they never let anyone into this country without their paperwork in order. So why would they allow the crew members of this vessel to enter the port? Because they don't have their paperwork in order. And as I just read to you, it's very, very complicated, apparently having a shore pass. So let me continue here. Shirag Bari, a veteran Indian seafarer, says, he is the international operations manager of the UK headquartered International Seafarers Welfare and Assistance Network. Apparently, this is a thing. He said he believes it will be a matter of months until all of the mariners are able to return home. Maybe after a few weeks, some of the junior ranks may be repatriated home, he said, but it may be that the senior ranks are still required to complete the formal investigation and will be kept in the U.S. The crew is well supplied with food, water, and other supplies originally intended for their voyage back to Sri Lanka. This is the BBC article. The crew will also be able to receive packages from the nonprofits that work with the mariners, which Reverend Joshua Messick said would include baked goods and other treats. strange to me. The more pressing needs are psychological, says Reverend Messick. The former, he said that combating tedium and boredom when not working is among the greatest challenges when the mariners are isolated for long periods. Many of them, who are often young, will turn to video games and social media to pass the time. Yeah, I'd like to friend some of these on social media. So all y'all that are on, I don't know, social media, have you seen any posts from these crew members? Why are they being kept in the dark? Why aren't we able to even know their names? Mr. Bari says he expects the crew will need mental health support in the wake of the incident and the intense media attention over what went wrong and who, if anyone, is to blame. Oh, no, no one is to blame. Of course not. No. I mean, it's not like the harbor pilots from the state of Maryland and the port of Baltimore are to blame, even though they're responsible for the safe passage of the vessels in and out of the port. That's their job duty. I did an entire video about it. They have like 10 years of experience before they can even get on board to, well, actually they can get on board as an apprentice, but until they can actually authorize the safe passage of that vessel. So I would never say that the responsible ones would be responsible. That would make too much sense now, wouldn't it? Okay. The BBC writes, everyone is trying to crack the case and that must stop. The seafarers, mariners are likely already traumatized and stressed. They're still on a ship in a foreign land. We should stand by them and make them feel confident that they will not be judged in their hour of need. Can I get an amen? Friends, yeah. Can't wait to see your comments here. This is a live stream, and let me see if YouTube is even allowing me to see what you're saying here. I love my Healthy American audience. You are very savvy, sophisticated, supportive, and just a tiny bit snarky. Today just called for some snark. I don't know about you, but if this is an international incident, and guess what? It is, then don't y'all think we should have more specific media coverage? Let me close out by saying some years ago, and by some years ago, I mean about a decade ago, I was a freelance writer in health and fitness, nutrition, and personal training, all that stuff for several leading women's health magazines. And when I wrote a story and I interviewed someone like an expert that was creating a workout, I would interview them, and then I would pass along I'd pass along the article that I wrote and the information to an editor, a story editor, who then would call my source to check to make sure that all the quotes were correct. Now, all y'all, not all y'all smart ones, those in the back that just showed up, they're going to say, Peggy, this is a breaking story. We don't have time to vet the information. Oh, I see. Just publish it instead as false. We don't have any names. We don't even have all of the names of the victims who were working on the bridge. I'm going to be bringing you more information, and it's absolutely stunning. I think I'll do this video for you tomorrow about the Bronner construction company that hired these illegal immigrants. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say visitors. I'm sorry. The new word is new Americans, the new Americans. And now don't be saying that this story is intended to drum up sympathy for those who have come to this country illegally, because after all, they have hardships in their country. There's no reason they should stay in their own country to try to make it better like we're doing here. There's no reason that all of the billions of dollars that are going to bring these new Americans in, there's no reason at all that that money should be used to work in those countries to improve the conditions. Oh, no. It's much better to just be a criminal, break some laws while you enter. And then we can drum up the sympathy, for those that have these horrible jobs that they said were horrible jobs, but they took them willingly and they got paid for it as well. But wait until I tell you that this construction company, Bronner, wants you to foot the bill. Isn't that, well, it's equitable and sustainable and green, I think, if you contribute to the GoFundMe. I guess Bronner's not going to do it, even though, isn't there something called workman's comp? A good friend of mine used to work in workman's comp, and yeah, they have insurance policies and everything, but they want you to pay. Yeah, there's always a GoFundMe after the incidents. We still don't know all their names, but there is a GoFundMe for their anonymous families who probably are not going to be paid off to go back to their country, or they're probably not going to be given citizenship in exchange for participating in the making of this movie. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a joke, YouTube. That was just a joke. I always say that my heart sincerely goes out to all of those who are harmed in the making of these movies. So anyhow, on that note, I was wondering if you think they were really filling potholes. Do you think that's what they were doing, filling potholes? Now, I never saw the so-called fireworks that went off on the bridge. I've yet to see that footage. I did see some lights on the bridge that probably are there all the time. But if any of you have the actual footage of these so-called, I'll just call them fireworks, let me know, because it did dawn on me that if they happen to have workers on the bridge right before, I'll just call it the mishap, do you think they were really filling potholes? Just asking. Just asking. Hey, this was too much fun today, friends. Actually, I'm just going to leave the video as is. And if you have missed some of my previous coverage, this would be a good time to go watch those other videos. And I'm going to compile all of my notes for tomorrow. We're going to be talking about things that don't add up. We're going to be looking at this Bronner asking you to foot the bill. It's rather strange. And upcoming coverage is going to be about Baltimore itself, because many of you asked me to expose the corruption and the criminal dealings of Nancy Pelosi's Baltimore family. Didn't you know? She was born and raised in Baltimore. She got married to Paul Pelosi in Baltimore. And you know what? It also dawned on me. Now, Paul Pelosi is like an investment banker guy. Wouldn't it be interesting, like if his investment bank got all that money from you and me, like our federal tax dollars? Wouldn't that be interesting if he got the money to rebuild this bridge? I predict it's going to be called the Biden Bridge, the Build Back Better Biden Bridge. I think that'll be the new name of it. Certainly not Francis Scott Key. We can't have anything to do with patriotism left in this country. Otherwise, how do we complete our march into communism? All we have to do, get rid of all that stuff. So it's all on schedule. All right, friends, this was a rollicking ride. I'm so glad that you're on board, and I look forward to seeing you in my broadcast tomorrow. I'll probably have 2 or 3 shorter ones, and that gets underway at 4 p.m. Pacific. If you're not on my Substack, what in the non-spinning world? I didn't say it was flat. It is a dome, but what in the non-spinning dome world? It's free. It's over at peggyhall.substack.com. And I know many of you are asking for more information on that. And I'll give you a hint. It's in the Bible. But I do have some great sources that I can share with you as well. All right, friends, that's it for now. Thanks for being on board. Big shout out to the moderators. And I'll see you in tomorrow's broadcast.